Hi friends and family, hey loved ones, how are y'all doing? So I'm still here doing my thing, kicking and screaming. No, not really, but I have been still working through some feelings of frustration and disappointment. And yeah, I think, well, I'm feeling that some of my old resentments have been composted and given back, because I do feel a lot lighter. But there are like certain frustrations, of course, that are gonna come up and light a fire under my butt and help me redirect my attention and my focus and my intentions. And yeah, it's just paying attention and observing and acknowledging and witnessing like those aspects that are alive within me, paying attention to what the messages are that they have for me to help me with like my inner union, my alchemy, and yeah, my process of self-mastery. And so yeah, just being willing to be responsible and to respond to like those messages, to that stimulus, to that energy, yeah, that sometimes is easier to react to than to respond to and go into like a story about, or go into a complex or a wound or a lens to view it through in certain ways. So yeah, just seeing certain things come up today, and a lot of things that relate the last couple days, and it's kind of tripping me out, of course, like it always does. Yeah, just looking at certain things, and it's just like seeing it look back into me. Yeah, it's a little trippy. And yeah, just this interchange and this exchange at play. So yeah, last time I talked about anger, how I'd worked through some anger, and yeah, I just wanted to like share some things about some of the elements and some of the signs of the zodiac and some archetypes and energies and qualities that were coming up in certain ways, like for me, and I know it relates to the collective as well, to we. And so, yeah, that's why I'm all excited to share about it. I don't know what it means to you, but I know what it means to me. And there's this part of me that doesn't know, but knows. And then, like, my conscious mind and my lower ego gets to catch up sometimes. And it's really interesting, like that dance of play of knowing and not knowing. And living, dying, and being reborn into the moment. And yeah, letting go of the need to know, to be born again through not knowing. So it's an interesting dance. So yeah, I've been looking into some of the Hindu mythology. I'm a little less familiar with the Hindu, even though I've always found it like fascinating, and I do like understand like some of the basic energies or qualities some of the archetypes and the figures have. It's just kind of interesting to look into the relationships and the correspondences and the interchangeability, of like certain trinities. And yeah, it's interesting. So just looking at like the generator, the creator, and the regenerator, and like Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva, and like those trinities, like consciousness, space and time, generation, creation, and regeneration. The creator, the preserver, the destroyer, or is the destroyer the renewer and the regenerator? Yeah, so yeah, there's interesting things at play there, life, death, and rebirth cycles. And while I was watching, I just decided, oh, I'm gonna go look for a video about Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva and look at that, because I'm really curious about, the cycles of creation and yeah, that Trinity aspect. And so, yeah, I just decided to look for something, and I was watching an interesting video, and there's this one sentence, this one quote that just kind of made me go, whoa, and it and it brought like a whole bunch in, and I wanted to share it. So it totally reminded me of the Ouroboros and continuity, continual renewal, abundance and plenty, prosperity and creative energy, the devouring force. And so the comment or the quote was, the eater while eating is being eaten. The eater while eating is being eaten. And so it was like, oh, I've heard that before. I had forgotten. I remember now, but I had heard that before, and I was like, whoa. Oh my gosh. Like, thank you. So it just kind of got me started on, oh, that is so true. And I like, there, it was a couple years ago where I kind of took that in and looked at like what I was consuming and what was consuming me. And yeah, because I think we've all heard that, what's eating you, like it's not about what you're eating, it's about what's eating you, you know? And so, yeah, there's something true about that. So what we consume consumes us, or our power. What we eat eats us. What we take into ourselves devours us as well. We become what we eat. We become what we create. We become what we think. We become what we receive. We become what we believe. We become what we perceive. We become what we see. We become what we send out. We become what we seed. We become what we speak. We become what we value. We become what we seek. We become what we listen to. We become what we dream. We become what we embody. We become what we are. We become what we conceive. We become all we choose to sustain. Yeah, and reinforce. So, yeah, I thought that was kind of interesting. Like, yeah, with that continuity and, yeah, generating, creating, and regenerating. The force of that. So, yeah, while I was exploring, like, certain themes that relate and correspond in so many ways, I've been looking at astrology this week, and I've been doing my chart, looking at 5 different books that I have here, comparing notes, and yeah, looking at like different systems and traditions and things. And one's a Mythic astrology book, one's a Buddhist astrology book, one's just like an A to Z, one's in like a Bible, and then another compendium. And so there's, yeah, a lot of information and a lot of different takes from different authors, but yeah, it's still aligned and, yeah, just kind of expressed a little bit differently through all of those minds in certain ways. So it's kind of, yeah, kind of interesting to see how each one is slightly different, but it really does like line up with the same basic energetics and qualities. It's just expressed in somewhat varying ways, and which is kind of life imitating art, art imitating life, that kind of a thing. And so it's kind of cool that way. But yeah, I was looking at some things about the regenerator and the creator and the preserver, sustainer, and I just looked into Pluto a little more, and that's been coming up a little bit because of the mythology of Persephone and Ceres, and how Persephone is kidnapped by Pluto, and she goes into the underworld, and she ate 3 seeds, so the food of the dead, and so must stay and be a part of that realm for half of the year. And her mother is like absolutely devastated and refuses to grow wheat or corn like during that time. It's a barren time. It's while her daughter is gone and they're separated. While her daughter is in the underworld with her new husband and all of that. So yeah, I've been thinking about that myth today, and it was really super funny too. I have a story to share at the end that relates from Women Who Run with the Wolves, Clarissa, Pinkola, Estes. But yeah, a couple days ago I was looking at Pluto because I'd never really looked much at some of these outer planets. Like, I'm pretty familiar with some of the inner planets or the closer planets and those things, but I've never really looked too into depth too much of like about Uranus and Uranus. Yeah, you say tomato, yeah. I never really looked at Neptune or Pluto very much. So I was looking at, yeah, the renewer. Pluto is also known as the renewer. And so, yeah, there was a lot of interesting things that kind of popped out at me. And I wrote some things down from Mythic Astrology by Greene. And yeah, I just wrote down some things. So I'll share some keywords about Pluto. Pluto is power, abuse, birth, death, and rebirth, regeneration, elimination, taboo, pollution, transmutation, subversion, obsession, compulsion, the unconscious mind, decay, the dictator, orgasm, religious conversation, and psychoanalysis. So that's pretty interesting there. Pluto the renewer, the crescent, so the glyph of the sign, the crescent of the soul hovers above the cross of matter surmounted by the spirit, symbolizing the descent of spirit through the soul into matter and the unconscious mind, experiencing the fire of transformation. So that was kind of interesting for me to see. It's been working with elements, and fire keeps coming up for me in different ways. So I've been looking at the fire signs and yeah, the energy and the element of fire. But yeah, that was kind of cool. Like the crescent of the soul hovers above the cross of matter surmounted by the spirit, symbolizing the descent of spirit through the soul into matter and the unconscious mind, experiencing the fire of transformation. So Pluto exerts a powerful influence. So Pluto concerns itself with the use, abuse, and misuse of power. Unconscious use of Plutonian power when expressed negatively indicates abuse, ignorance, intolerance, coercion, manipulation, and fanaticism. Empowerment is operating when Pluto is positively expressed. So, the urge to regenerate. Pluto embodies the drive to confront all that is deepest and darkest in the psyche. The planet of pollution, inner and outer. It is the toxicity of emotional and psychic abuse and the repository of all things that are deemed unacceptable and evil in oneself and in the world. Pluto is all that must be eliminated, including festering resentment, envy, jealousy that lurks in the depths of the psyche. The planet forces such things out into the open so that the psychological processes that lie at the root of the behavior can be understood and transformed. It tempers the gold within the soul. Used wisely, Pluto can transmute the blackest of experiences to release a potent creative force. All that has decayed becomes fertile compost for new growth. Seeds are sown and germinate in the darkness. Pluto brings new life forcefully if necessary. Used unwisely, Plutonian darkness festers, leading to an orgy of destruction. When unresolved, explosive Plutonian rage leads to war. The cycle of life. Pluto has powerful links with the conception, birth, death, rebirth cycle in which energy is constantly reborn, dies, and is renewed. The planet is connected with death of all kinds, especially endings and beginnings. Pluto is also intimately associated with the kind of sexual act in which the ego dies in an intense orgasmic experience that goes way beyond mere physical gratification. So that's like the little death. Explosive influence. Pluto is the higher vibration of the warrior Mars, signifying universal aggression rather than its expression on a personal level. Although its devious aspect is often hidden, Pluto has the same dynamic charge as Mars and occasionally brings things bursting volcanically to the surface. intense obsessive compulsive fearlessness, courage to confront and accept their own depths, to face mortality. Life is not to be taken lightly. So, yeah, I thought that was super interesting about Pluto and the cycle of life and how it, yeah, does correspond to the life, death, rebirth cycles, or the birth, death, rebirth cycles. And yeah, just looking at all those things, and then power. Yeah, claiming our power, and then also confronting our shadows and our fears, and yeah, the deepest, darkest depths and parts of the psyche. The pollution. Now, I mentioned this in a video a couple weeks ago, and yeah, just relating it to like the toxicity, like the pollution in our environment reflects the pollution that we have in our minds and in within our own selves, in our own bodies, and yeah, it reflects our old belief systems, our core belief systems of what we believe about ourselves, and that's all the toxicity and the pollution that has accumulated. Like, it's time to purge and cleanse and release and let that shit go, you know. And so that's what we're doing in a lot of different ways. It needs to come to the surface so that we can become aware of it in the first place, because we keep suppressing or hiding it from ourselves. But it's time for it to come up and become illuminated and transformed. And so, yeah, just a lot of interesting things that correlate and correspond to these themes and these things. But yeah, well, I don't even know where to start, because it's just there's so much. But yeah, I'm enjoying, like, yeah, doing my astrology, and there's some things in there that I was really pleasantly surprised about, and it was like very validating and affirming for me. Oh my God, like, this is why I have the drive for this, or this is why I've been like this, and this is why I've been frustrated, and this is why I've had like so many headaches, because I didn't have an outlet or a channel for my creativity, or like to express like my authenticity. And so, yeah, I can see where certain physical illnesses manifested because of rage turned inward and things like that. And yeah, it's just, wow, it's kind of cool to see certain things. And so something that relates to Pluto. So Pluto spends a varying number of years in each sign. And yeah, so it really is more of a collective, a collective placement. So there's certain, age groupings where Pluto will be in one sign, and and so it does, like, it's like kind of a whole generation sometimes, like, where, Pluto's influences are at work through these certain signs in the zodiac. So where mine is placed is Pluto in Libra, and I thought that was interesting. So it symbolizes attitudes towards survival, and it has all been about like survival strategies and those kinds of things. Like, and we have been kind of locked into this survivor archetype rather than a creator archetype. Like, we've overly identified with the survivor, so it's all about surviving, and that's like where a lot of our energy goes, is like, what are we going to do to survive? And so it kind of keeps us locked in fear a lot of the time. But it's just something for each of us to look at and how it relates to us. So Pluto in Libra belongs to a generation whose sense of collective survival depends upon creating new ideals of human relationship and transforming these laws and structures which breed an inequality in human interaction. A reevaluation of collective definitions of right and wrong, good and evil, shifts in attitudes toward marriage, partnerships, and traditional roles. And so I thought that was kind of fun because of what I've been focusing on lately, and it's all about that. It's all about whole new ways, and it's all about like reciprocal relationships and symbiotic relationships and full participation and freedom, power, and responsibility. And so, and letting go or becoming aware of some of the roles that we play, and if we're attached to those as part of our identity, and how that trips us up, and we can get in our own way. So it's just kind of funny in certain ways, like just to see these things at play. And what else can I say that goes along with that? So, oh, well, yeah, maybe I'll just share what was going on with me this morning, and also yesterday as well, maybe even the day before. Like, I'll be really charged in the mornings, like, where I'm just feeling so frustrated, like, why the hell can't people see through their own bullshit and their own lies? And like, yeah, it's just because it's getting like really uber ridiculous outside on the outer stage, and like, it's just like, really that's yeah, it's just, there's not a big enough face palm for the stupid that's going on. But yeah, that's just my judgmental, I guess, impatient, critical aspect of like the idealist, which, yeah, it's pretty interesting and relates to where Jupiter, where the planet Jupiter is in my chart, and it's in Aries, and it's also in the 11th house. So that has to do with like community and challenges and growth through like through challenges, growth and expansion through challenges. And so it's like, yeah, this is what I asked for, this is what I wanted. I focus on growth and possibilities and expansion, and yeah, that's the gift that it is for me, is through those personal challenges, and challenges in relationships, and challenges with the collective and all of that. So yeah, that's pretty funny. So I might like share a little bit of what I wrote down about that, but I will just share like what it was coming up today, like the questions that I was having. And it was just like, yeah, because there isn't a big enough face palm, like seriously, with some of the stuff that just seems so obvious to me. And it really is simplicity in a lot of ways, but we're so full of our own descriptions and our ideas and our beliefs that we're like, you know, all those people in the Emperor's New Clothes that are convinced that they're seeing like this amazing garment that this emperor is wearing, because they've described it in such rich, exquisite detail, and they have like all of these other people describing the rich, exquisite details, that they're actually convincing themselves that they see like this radiant garment on this king. But until a child comes by and says, well, the emperor wears no clothes, and the kid's just laughing, and then everybody starts to laugh. But I think we've invested in our descriptions and our stories so much, put so much energy into them, that I don't know if we'd laugh if a child said, no, that the emperor's not wearing clothes. You know, like the emotional reaction to ego preserve, or to preserve the ego, or to preserve that sense of identity, that false image, may end up like harming that child, you know, like a child that dares to say something that goes against what the group consensus is, the group think mob mentality. And so like, that's a little sad to me in a lot of ways, but like, yeah, I mean, to each their own, and to each their own way. But it is just a little frustrating, just not a big enough face palm just to slap the stupid off of the face. So that's where I am, and that's like, yeah, I do, like, I feel like I've been wanting to talk about this stuff, but in a way, like, kind of feeling like, oh, that's a little mean-spirited, but really, like, it's just, it's like a part of how a part of me feels, and it's like, it's legit, and I'm gonna feel it to heal it, and I'm gonna reveal, and I'm just gonna be with it, and let it show me, and kind of teach me what I get to choose and claim for me. So, yeah. March 8th. It's a moon day to play, choose, claim, receive, and create. So I'm feeling like it is high time for a rant and a rave, a venting video of what the fuck is health to you? What the fuck does health come? Where the fuck does health come from? Where do you think it comes from? Where the fuck do you think health comes from? Does it come from within, or is it something that is attended to and cultivated and practiced? Does it come from a magic pill bottle or from a prescription? Does it come from a formula or through a toxic injection of chemicals? Does it come from your doctor, your government, the media, or their established distorted templates and inverted systems? Does it come from a magic wand or medical devices and big pharma treatments? Does it come from naive and wishful thinking? Does it come from what we take in or consume? Does it come from our own belief systems? Does it come from someone or something outside of us? Does it come from a one-size-fits-all acceptable, profitable treatment plan or a so-called preventative? Does it come from science or scientism? Does it come from suppressing emotions, feelings, symptoms, and cleansing authentic expressions? Does it come from mandates, lockdowns, and isolation? Does it come from anxiety, fear, pride, hate, or self-righteous ideologies? Does it come from the medical mafia? Does it come from force and ignorance? Does it come from squashing and suffocating life, dishonoring and devaluing freedom and personal choice? Does it come from personal responsibility? Does it come from positive thinking? Does it come from paying attention to our bodies and choosing to be nurturing to ourselves and our creative life, well-being, and energies? So responding, listening, acting, claiming, and choosing. So where the fuck does health come from? And how the fuck is health created? What the fuck is health to you? Yeah, and what the fuck is juice? Sugar, water, purple. Anyways, what are the 3 T's of disease? What are the roots of disease? What are the causes or the main causes of disease? Toxicity and deficiency or excess, imbalance of some kind, unnatural manipulation, poison bodies, hearts, and minds. Fragmented ways of operating and operating unconsciously, a la zombie zone. Overthinking, the hamster wheel, judge, victim, savior, mind control programming. Programming loops and identity attachments and complexes, survival strategies and cognitive dissonance, misguided intentions, misplaced trust and arrogance, vanity and compliance, to go along to get along, fear, anger, pride, lower ego preservation, conditioned self-loathing and self-hatred, trauma, toxins, and thoughts are the 3 T's of disease. Beliefs, shadow projections, and distorted perceptions, a steady diet of bullshit, the not good enough, the devalued, the unworthy, the wrong for being, guilty, shameful, mind control programming. Please be kind enough to justify your life and your existence. That's program, shame, guilt, lack, self-pity, self-importance, virtuous victim, sacrificial lamb, rejection of self, life and soul, rejection of being fully alive, joyful, engaged, and present. There's obstacles and anchors, energy drains, energy leaks, and ego attachments, false beliefs, myths, stories, and disempowering ways of operating. Disconnection. So where does your health and wellness come from? And who is responsible for that? Who is responsible for you? If you're not willing to take accountability for your health and well-being and claim your power to be well, you're giving your power away. You've given your power to choose away. And you've chosen illness, suffering, and pain. Oh, mommy and daddy and so-called external authority, oh, please come and save me. Oh my, the hero to the rescue, here to save the day. Because we're all just so stupid, clueless, and self-deceived. We bought into all these lies for way too many centuries. The witch trials, mass genocide, and wars are all built on lies, false myths, beliefs, and stories. It's high time to change our minds. If we can change our minds, we can change anything. So start asking to see the whole truth. Start listening and opening, softening, releasing, and expanding beyond the pain into the totality of being, becoming and co-creating, giving, sharing, receiving, interchanging, exchanging. Yeah, power, freedom, and responsibility. So balance, union, reconciliation, creative vision, humility, and wisdom gained through life experience, personal power, choice, and sovereignty, integrity. Claiming our wholeness and our right to be. To heal is to make whole. Claiming all of me. Individuation and integration, actualization, self-realization, knowing oneself in relation to the whole, alchemical transmutation, and self-liberation, self-mastery. Awakening, remembering, and recovering is a continuous process and journey of discovery, requiring our full participation. Where are you showing up and attending to your life and your own true whole well-being? What do you know that you can allow yourself to see? What do you believe that is not contributing to or supporting wellness and true harmony? Respect for the individual within the community. What are you choosing and what are you creating? Is it sourcing through your soul, or is it coming from the outer false structure of domination and control? So, yeah, some good questions to ask, and just like, yeah, some good venting that I needed for me, because yeah, seriously, sometimes like there's a part of me that does want to scream and just say, how the fuck and why the fuck do you believe the way that you that you believe and see? Like, oh, it's just like no logic at all. No logic. So fucking boners, lol, boneheads and boner moves. The thrusting phallic force of penetration and fertilization, actualization, manifestation, illumination, self-realization, creation, the primal urge to converge or to merge, or devour, consume, or destroy for fuel. This just in, cornholio causes 3-hour boner. Oh really? What doesn't cornholio do? LOL. Okay, so yeah, I'm feeling frustrated with the garbage nonsense, the incoherent babble, and the distortions of opinion and circle-back logic. The skeptic arguing with himself. Hold the tension of the opposites to reconcile the two as one, then and bring the third point of view forth and through. The middle way. I don't need to push or to force anything. Just work with and play through these energies. This energy at play. Play back. Play with. Play through. Being. Play through being love, being true, being whole, being willing, letting go, healing, awakening, remembering. Lots of confirmations, affirmations, synchronicities, messages, insights, and continuity. So, yeah. Disappointments and frustrations, struggles and challenges. Thank you for helping me grow more into me and all I really am through this whole of everything. Celebration. Thank you, life. Thank you, love. Acknowledgement. Thank you, joy, for everything. Thank you, lessons. Thank you, family. Thank you, God, source creator, for all this love we get to dream, see, create, claim, and be. And so, yeah, there's a couple of different things that relate to some of that, yeah, I was pleasantly surprised to find in my astrology chart. And it was just like, oh my gosh, that just makes so much sense. It's just like revealing like certain parts of my personality and like, yeah, some of the things that drive me. And it just, yeah, makes so much sense to me. And it's just like really interesting. I love this learning and this getting to know myself and see myself like, yeah, through this whole new way of being. So it is pretty awesome. And yeah, what wants to be said? So I just flipped open to this page in my journal from March 5th. And so, yeah, I'm just going to share a little bit about death and what I was, yeah, looking at and seeing into and seeing through. So I'm thinking about death, renewal, preservation, and regeneration, creation, and integration for the integrity of the whole, the gifts that sustain, preserve, protect life, and continuity. Ego death, the shaman's death, psychic death, physical death, death of the old, death of relationships, death of old ways, old roles and identities, death and release, a gift for life to grow, become, and be. Death of old beliefs, composting the old stories, gathering and singing over the bones with my whole heart and soul and deepest desires and soul's needs, to become whole, to heal, to love, and to serve humanity. What do I get to choose today? What do I get to invite and welcome in today? What do I get to ask for today? What am I open to receive today? What do I get to serve today? What do I get to align with today? What do I get to create today? What do I get to play with today? What love do I get to share today? What love do I get to be with today? Care for, honor, respect, allow, notice, bless, praise, thank, and celebrate. Always. So, yeah, looking at death and the life, death, life cycles and all of the abuses and wounded aspects, yeah, that kind of blind us or keep us in emotional prisons of pain and suffering and continual energy leaks, and we don't realize, and we're just like reinforcing and creating the same thing. So a couple years ago, yeah, when I was feeling really isolated and really low and really lonely and yeah, misunderstood, and yeah, just felt like such lack with the closeness and the intimacy in my relationships, and I realized that I had been choosing that. I realized, like, it was a big aha moment that just came, like the last puzzle came and just slid into place, and it was just like, oh my God, I've been choosing pain. I have been choosing pain. And I had no idea that that was what I was unconsciously choosing. And I kept recycling and recycling through that pain again and again. So once I realized that, I decided, oh my gosh, I can choose something else. What do I get to choose? So I said, I'm going to choose love, and I'm going to choose growth, because with growth, there still might be pain, but like there's so much other possibilities, and it includes everything. So instead of just, yeah, like sabotaging myself and choosing this again and again, like I'm ready to choose something else and choose what I really need, what my soul's really asking of me. So yeah, that's what I got to choose and create for me. And it's interesting that sometimes we do need to be in that isolation and those periods of confusion to break through, to break open. Yeah. And come through the other side. And that's like the ascent and the descent. And yeah, I've also been, yeah, looking at those stories, those archetypal themes of ascent and descent and wandering, and yeah, sometimes we need to be lost. We need to get lost in order to find ourselves. And so, yeah, like, it just reminds me too, like, sometimes we need to hit rock bottom because there's something down there that we need to find. And also, it's like, it's from the ground up that we build, you know? If we have like an ideal pedestal, there's no foundation, like, and there's no roots, and there's no ground to build upon. And so there's that to consider as well. So something that I flipped open to, like, right before I started is on page 444 of Women Who Run with the Wolves. And my eye came down to this paragraph at the bottom of the page called The Third Stage, The Wandering. And I just want to share a couple pages because it was just like, wow. Thank you. Thank you, inner teacher, and thank you, universe, and thank you, God, and thank you, love, and thank you, self, yeah, for this. So, The third stage, the wandering. In the third stage of the story, the father offers to keep his daughter in riches for life, but the daughter says she will go forth and depend upon fate. At daybreak, with her arms bound in clean gauze, she walks away from her life as she has known it. She becomes disheveled and animal-like again. Late at night, starving, she comes to an orchard in which all the pears are numbered. A spirit drains the moat around the orchard, and while the mystified gardener watches, the young woman eats the pear that offers itself to her. Initiation is the process by which we turn from our natural inclination to remain unconscious and decide that whatever it takes, suffering, striving, enduring, we will pursue conscious union with the deeper mind, the wild self. So initiation is the process by which we turn from our natural inclination to remain unconscious and decide that whatever it takes, suffering, striving, enduring, we will pursue conscious union with the deeper mind, the wild self. In the tale, the mother and the father attempt to draw the maiden back into an unconscious state. Ah, stay here with us, and you are injured, but we can make you forget. Will she now, that she has defeated the devil, rest on her laurels, so to speak? Will she retire, handless, injured, to the recesses of the psyche where she can be taken care of for the rest of her life by just drifting along and doing what she is told? No, she will not withdraw like an acid-scarred beauty into a dim room forever. She will dress, psychically, medicate herself as best as she can. She will dress, psychically medicate herself as best as she can, and descend another stone staircase to an even deeper realm of the psyche. The old dominant part of the psyche offers to keep her safe and hidden forever, but her instinctual nature says no to that, for it feels it must strive to live fully awake no matter what. The maiden's wounds are wrapped in white gauze. White is the color of the deathland, and also the color of the alchemical albedo, the resurrection of the soul from the underworld. The color is a harbinger of the cycle of descent and return. Here at the beginning, the maiden becomes a wanderer, and this in and of itself is a resurrection into a new life and death in the old. To wander is a very good choice. Women in this stage often begin to feel both desperate and adamant to go on this inward journey no matter what, and so they do as they leave one life for another, or one stage of life for another, or sometimes even one lover for no other lover than themselves. Progressing from adolescence to young womanhood, or from married woman to spinster, or from mid-age to older, crossing over the crone line, setting out wounded but with one's own new value system, that is death and resurgence. Leaving a relationship or the home of one's parents, leaving behind outmoded values, becoming one's own person, and sometimes driving deep into the wildlands because one just must. All these are the fortunes of descent. And sometimes driving deep into the wildlands because one just must. All these are the fortune of the descent. So off we go down into a different world under a different sky with unfamiliar ground beneath our boots, and yet we go vulnerably, for we have no grasping, no holding on to, no clinging to, no knowing, for we have no hands. The mother and the father, the collective and the egoic aspects of the psyche no longer have the power they once had. They have been chastened by blood that has been spilt through their reckless disregard. Even though they make the offer to keep the maiden in comfort, they are helpless now to direct her life, for destiny draws her to live as a wanderer. In this sense, her mother and father die. Her new parents are the wind and the road. The archetype of the wanderer constellates that is, causes another to emerge, that of the lone wolf or the outsider. She is outside seeming happy families of the villages, outside the warm room and out in the cold. That is her life now. This becomes the living metaphor for women on the journey. We begin somehow not to feel a part of the life that carnivals about us. The calliope seems far away. The barkers, the hucksters, the whole magnificent circus of outer life wobbles and then falls to dust as we descend farther into the underworld. Here the old night religion again comes up from the road to meet us. While the old tale of Hades grabbing off Persephone to the underworld is a fine drama, far older stories from the matriarch-centered religions, such as those about Ishtar and Inanna, point toward a definite yearning to love bond between the maiden and the king in the underworld. In these old religious versions, the maiden need not be seized and dragged into the underworld by some dark god. The maiden knows she must go, knows it is part of the divine right. Although she may be fearful, she wants to go meet her king, her bridegroom, in the underworld from the beginning. Making her descent in her own way, she is transformed there, learns deep knowing there, and ascends again to the outer world. Both the classical Persephone myth and the core of the fairy tale, the Handless Maiden, are fragmentary dramas which derive from the more cohesive ones portrayed in the older religions. What was once a longing to find the underworld beloved became, somewhere in time, a lust and seizure in later myths. In the time of great matriarchies, it was understood that a woman would naturally be led to the underworld, guided there and therein by the powers of the deep feminine. It was considered part of her instruction and an achievement of the highest order for her to gain this knowledge through first-hand experience. The nature of this descent is the archetypal core of both the Handless Maiden fairy tale and the Demeter Persephone myth. So now in the tale, the maiden wanders about for the second time in her unwashed animal state. This is the proper mode of descent, the I don't care so much for things of the world mode, and as we see, her beauty shines regardless. The ideas of being unwashed also is from ritual of olden times, the culmination of which is the bathing and putting on of new clothes to represent having crossed into the new or renewed relationship with the self. We see that the Handless Maiden has gone through one entire descent and transformation, the one of awakening. In certain alchemical tracts, there are 3 stages described as being necessary to transformation: the Negrito, the black or the dark dissolving stage; the Rubedo, the red or the sacrificial stage; and the Albedo, the white or the resurgent stage. The bargain with the devil was the Negrito, the darkening; the chopping off of the hands was the Rubedo, the sacrifice; and the leaving of home wrapped in white, the Albedo, is the new life. And now, as the wanderer, she is plunged back into the Negrito again, but now the old self is gone, and the deep self, the naked self, is the powerful wanderer. Now the maiden is not only haggard but hungry. She kneels before an orchard as though it is an altar, and it is, the altar of the wild underground gods. As we descend to the primary nature, the old automatic ways of nourishing ourselves are eliminated. Things of the world that used to be food for us lose their taste. Our goals no longer excite us. Our achievements no longer hold interest. Everywhere we look in the topside world, there is no food for us. So it is one of the purest miracles of the psyche that when we are so defenseless, help comes and right on time. The vulnerable maiden is visited by an emissary from the soul, the spirit in white. The spirit in white removes the barriers to her being nourished. It empties the moat by adjusting the sluice gate. The moat has hidden meaning. According to the ancient Greeks, in the underworld, the river called Styx separates the land of the living from the dead. The river called Styx separates the land of the living from the land of the dead. Its waters are filled with the memories of all past deeds of the dead since the beginning of time. The dead can decipher these memories and keep them in order, for they have heightened vision that comes from being without a material body. But for the living, the river is poison. Unless the living are accompanied across by a spirit guide, they will drown and sink to another level of the underworld, one that is like a mist, and there they will wander forever. Dante had his Virgil, Coatlicue had a living snake who accompanied her to the fire world, and the Handless Maiden has a spirit in white. So you see, first a woman escapes from the not awake mother and the greedy, bumbling father, and then gives herself over to be guided by the wild soul. In the tale, the spirit guide escorts the Handless Maiden across to the underworld realm of the trees, the king's orchard. This, too, is a remnant of the old religion. Spirit guides are always assigned to the young initiates in the old religions. Greek mythos is filled with reports of young women being accompanied by wolf women or lion women or other figures who served as initiators. Even in current religious rites that are concomitant with nature, such as among the Deen, the Navajo, the mysterious Yabishis, are animal elementals who accompany initiation as well as healing rites. The psychic idea embodied here is that the underworld, like the unconscious of humans, swirls with many unusual and completing features, images, archetypes, seductions, threats, treasures, tortures, and tests. It is important for a woman's individuation journey that she has spiritual good sense or be assisted by a guide who does, so that she does not fall into phantasmagoria of the unconscious, so that she does not lose herself in this tantalizing material. As we see in the tale, it is more important to stay with one's hunger and go forward from there. Like Persephone before her, and the life goddess before her. The maiden finds her way into a land where there are magical orchards and a king awaits her. The old religion now begins to glow in this tale with more and more intensity. In Greek myths, there were two trees twined over the door to the underworld, and Elysium, the place where the dead who had been found virtuous were sent, was composed of what? Yes, orchards. Elysium is described as a place of perpetual day where souls may elect to be reborn on earth whenever they please. It is the doppelganger, the double of the topside world. Difficult things may occur here, but their meaning and the learning they provide are different from those in the topside world. In the topside world, all is interpreted in the light of simple gains and losses. In the underworld or other world, all is interpreted in light of the mysteries of true sight, right action, and the development of becoming a person of intense inner strength and knowing. In the tale, the action now centers on the fruit tree, which in ancient times was called the tree of life, tree of knowing, tree of life and death, the tree of knowledge. Unlike trees with needles or leaves, the fruit tree is a tree of bountiful food. And not just food, for a tree stores water in its fruit. Water, the primal fluid of growth and continuance, is soaked up by the roots, which feed the tree by capillary action, a network of billions of cell plexuses too small to see, and water arrives in the fruit and plumps it out into a beauteous thing. Because of this, the fruit is considered to be invested with soul, with a life force that develops from and contains some measure of water, air, earth, food, and seed, which on top of it also tastes divine. Women who are fed by the fruit and water and seed of the work in the underground forests are plumped out psychologically accordingly. Their psyches become gravid and carry on a continual ripening. Like a mother offering the babe her breast, the pear tree in the orchard bends down to give the maiden its fruit. This mother's juice is that of regeneration. Eating the pear nourishes the maiden. But a more poignant action is this: the unconscious, the fruit of it, bends to feed her. In this sense, the unconscious bestows a kiss of itself upon her lips. It gives her a taste of the self, the breath and the substance of her own wild God, a wild communion. The hailing of Mary by her kinswoman Elizabeth in the New Testament is probably a remnant of this ancient understanding among women. Blessed be the fruit of thy womb, she says. In the prior night religions, the woman, just having been initiated and pregnant with knowing, would be welcomed back into the world of the living with a lovely blessing of and from her kinswomen. This remarkable idiom of the story is that during the darkest times, the feminine unconscious, the uterine unconscious nature feeds a woman's soul. Women describe that in the midst of their descent, they are in the darkest dark and are touched by the brush of a wingtip and feel lightened. They feel an inner nourishing taking place, a spring of blessed water bursting forth over parched ground from where they do not know. This spring does not solve suffering, but rather nourishes when nothing else is forthcoming. It is manna in the desert. It is water from the stones. It is food out of thin air. It quells the hunger so we can go on, and that is the whole point, to go on toward our knowing destiny. The tale resurrects the memory of a very old promise. The promise is that the descent will nourish even though it is dark, even though one feels one has lost one's way, even in the midst of not knowing, not seeing, wandering blind, there is something, an inordinately present someone who keeps pace. We go left, it goes left. We go right, it follows close behind, bearing us up, making a way for us. Now we are in another negrito of wandering and not knowing what will become of us, and yet in this very raggedy condition we are brought to sup on the tree of life. To eat of the tree of life in the land of the dead is an ancient impregnation metaphor. In the land of the dead, it was believed a soul could invest itself in a fruit or any edible thing so that its future mother would eat it, and the soul hidden within the fruit would begin its regeneration in her flesh. So here, at the almost midway point through the substance of the pear, we are being given the body of the wild mother. We are eating that which we will ourselves become. We are eating that which we will ourselves become. So that was the third stage, the wandering. And so that is just a perfect story for the feels right now. Yeah, the wandering, the transitioning, like between life and death, and between those stages of life, death, rebirth, And yeah, holding the tension of the opposites to birth, the third, through and forth. Yeah. So yeah, that's pretty interesting. Pretty profound wisdom. I'm grateful and I appreciate receiving that. And so yeah, grateful to receive it and to share and to be with it, to let it percolate and penetrate and illuminate all that I'm able to see. Yeah, all that I'm able to reconcile within me. Yeah, so awesome, awesome. And so yeah, I have been focusing on solutions and possibilities and not just like looking at what I feel is wrong or lacking. Even though like sometimes I can like sort of get stuck in a loop sometimes, like, because yeah, it just does. Sometimes I just don't understand certain things. I'm like, how can you not see this, or how can you not get this? You know, like with these like well-meaning, emotionally intelligent people that I know and love and care about and care for. Like, it's just disappointing to me in certain ways. That, yeah, that I, you know, like feel that they're not seeing certain things that I'd like them to see. But like, yeah, that's something for me to look at. For me, like, to understand, yeah. And yeah, there was like certain things that I was like, oh, that's what that's about. So in my astrology chart, for instance, I have Saturn, the planet Saturn is in Cancer. And so that is like kind of an interesting placement for Cancer, and it's kind of a challenge, and it's kind of almost like looked at as a detriment, or like kind of an unfavorable aspect or whatnot. But yeah, it has to do with like those things that I'm going through, and it is like Saturn, that way shower, and that planet of boundaries and contraction. And so it is interesting in a lot of ways. So I just wrote down like just a little bit about that. And so Saturn in the element of water reflects the need to find security and self-sufficiency through relationships which define one's personal worth to the outer world. And Saturn in Cancer urgently needs to establish guarantees of lovability. A deep fear of abandonment may make individual appear more passive and helpless than she really is. Defense mechanisms often include extreme sensitivity to rejection and a martyr-like stance toward unhappiness. Family ties may dominate personal life because they provide a sense of belonging. Emotional dependency may be controlled or even suppressed, but Saturn in Cancer secretly longs to bind loved ones as tightly as possible for security. Clings to the past or what is known, creates rigid boundaries of protection for that sense of security. And so, yeah, there's some of that right there that I get to work with. And I also wrote down, so the second house has to do with personal resources and possession, wealth, values, and security. And it's an earth sign, and it's feminine, and it's fixed, and the heart of the body is the neck and the throat. And yeah, that's been coming up for me a lot lately, is like those symbols of the neck and the throat, and number 5 and all of that. And yeah, so I think it's kind of interesting. So Saturn in Cancer, security, conscious placement, clings to the past, creating rigid boundaries. Depression and moodiness are possible. An unbalanced attitude can create the dual interference of miserliness and arrogance toward those that are not as successful. Saturn can be very judgmental. Saturn mixed with a positive attitude creates deep wisdom. And so, yeah, just looking at those things, it's kind of funny. And like, just, it's been all about like self-worth and self-respect lately too. And that has been coming up and coming through in certain ways. And I've been, yeah, just like investigating and excavating and writing down these little gems and nuggets that come to me, and just enjoying the learning and the discovery, and just, yeah, the continuity of, yeah, expansion and recovery. And, oh yeah, and so the next video I want to share about Aries, because it's all about the ram, and that's so expansion, that's like through challenge, like that's what I get to experience, like yeah. Aries and Jupiter, or Jupiter and Aries, yeah, in my 11th house. So I just wrote down a little bit about that. Jupiter in Aries renews faith in life through innovative ideas and actions that validate personal potency and make a mark on the outer world. Hope and inspiration are stirred by each new challenge successfully met. Competition and self-mythologizing are fundamental to a sense of well-being, not to achieve superiority over others, but for the sheer joy of feeling vital and alive. Life is perceived as a grand heroic adventure where personal destiny is fulfilled through testing inner resources against the world's opposition. So, pretty funny. And also something that had to do with self-respect. Yeah. It was about Chiron, and yes, I have Chiron in Aries. That was one thing that I recently found out. I didn't know, like, that was something I didn't know, and it does make a lot of sense. So, Chiron in Aries often involves important experiences of disappointment in the individual's efforts to assert identity. Persistent and unfair resistance from others may seem to arise whenever the individual tries to do anything original or self-expressive. The family background may reflect unfulfilled dreams and undeserved frustration in the achievement of personal goals. Profound understanding may be gained through a willingness to accept with grace what one cannot change in life, while retaining courage, initiative, and a sense of self-worth. Chiron in the element of fire reflects a sense of life's unfairness through frustration in creative endeavors and individual self-expression. And that is from Mythic Astrology by Liz Greene. Also, my Uranus in Libra describes a need to break free of collective definitions of relationship in order to achieve greater clarity and truth in human interchange. Although the individual may not willingly undertake actions which are deemed disruptive by partners, family, or society, life will sooner or later offer the challenge of balancing togetherness with individuality. There may be a reaction against the constrictive marital and family values of the previous generation. Respect for self and others, for Uranus and Libra, is the key to a sense of inner freedom. Uranus in Aries reflects the impulse to transform outworn social ideals and approaches to education and communication. So, yeah, I thought that was pretty interesting. That, yeah, we might not willingly undertake actions which are deemed disruptive by partners, family, or society, but life will sooner or later offer us the challenge of balancing togetherness with individuality. And so, yeah, very interesting indeed. Silly being silly. Anyway, wow, whoa, this astrology illuminating some seen and unseen parts and aspects of my personality and opportunities to know and grow myself more fully. Togetherness and individuality. Individuality. Yeah. Being at one within me in divine duality. Harmonization. A balance of dual nature. So, yeah, that's letting go and releasing the old to welcome in the true full soul, renewed, new life, new light, new love, whole new ways of being in the world, but not of it. So, yeah, just working through those things and playing with those themes and life, regeneration, and continuity, life, death, and rebirth. Through all these things, through all these ways, through all these parts of the whole, to recreate and become, yeah, to create and be all we are, who we are, as we are, here we are. So there we are. And here we are again. So yeah, hope you're doing well. What's coming up for you? Anything interesting? Yeah, I'd like to know. I'm curious. I'm always curious about those things, what everyone else is going through. And yeah, just taking it one day at a time and one step at a time and one moment at a time. Letting go as best I can and being here as best I can and being love as best I can, as best I'm able to. So take care of yourselves and be well. Be love for yourselves. All right. See you soon.